This is Falcon Launch Control at T-minus 30 minutes and counting. Video of the Falcon 9 rocket venting liquid oxygen as the second stage now begins loading its liquid oxygen propellant. Outside at the countdown clock at Complex 39, NASA's Kennedy Space Center, you had NASA social media participants gathered to watch the launch of CRS-10. NASA Social, as we call it, brings together a broad range of people who engage with NASA on various social media conduits. These events provide NASA followers with the opportunity to go behind the scenes at NASA facilities and events and speak with scientists and engineers and even some astronauts. So we're going to go now to NASA's Josh Finch, standing by with some of our NASA social media participants, and tell more about their experience here at Kennedy.
I'm here with Aaron Shironi, who has Thank you, George. I'm here with Aaron Shironi, who has had a chance to get a behind-the-scenes look at the Kennedy Space Center. We're here at the countdown clock just a few minutes away from launch. And Aaron, tell me a little bit about the behind-the-scenes tours that you've had at the Kennedy Space Center.
This is my third NASA social, and as always, it's been just incredible to be able to see not only what's going up there, but all of the work that goes into it. I studied genetics in addition to working in music, which seems like it's totally separate, but actually it's very interconnected. And one of the things that I found particularly interesting was when we heard from Dr. Anita Goel, superbug up to the space station, which you may have heard about, MRSA, which is a very common infection in hospitals. And the reason that it's so difficult to treat is because the bug constantly mutates. And so she's going to be looking at how it mutates in that environment. And it's going to be obviously controlled, but you're exposed to completely different things there. So, yeah, I found that actually absolutely incredible.
You've also gotten a chance to visit some of the facilities like the Vehicle Assembly Building, but also a chance to get an up-close look at Pad A, where today's launch will be from. Tell me a little bit about those tours.
We actually walked onto Pad B, which was incredible because I've seen pads up close, but to actually physically stand on top of the last place that an astronaut's feet touched the ground before, you know, the Apollo missions left for the moon or the shuttle left for the ISS is just, I don't even know that I have any words for it. And I'm someone who speaks quite often. I'm pretty vocal, but yeah, it's just a feeling that really puts humanity and your own humanity in perspective, and it's really humbling, not just the size, but the enormity of what went into something like that. All of the people, I mean, we've met engineers, we've met scientists, we have docents who are working as volunteers who, Jean, who's standing over here, sewed panels onto the space shuttle, which I then went and saw when I saw Atlantis at the visitor center. So yeah, just that overwhelming sense of, oh my God, it really is this giant collaborative effort. And I feel like if more people saw that, they would understand that this biosphere really is, in fact, a biosphere. It's a place where none of us are separate, no matter where you live in the world, no matter what job you work, and every single thing is so critical. Yeah, and it's just overwhelming, and I'm really, really excited to be here.
That's great. And so yesterday's launch attempt was scrubbed, but you got to come back for day two.
Yeah.
All right? So that's pretty great. So tell me a little bit about what it feels like to be here.
I'm so excited. Again, it's kind of hard to put into words what watching a launch, especially this close, as you can see, you know, the pad right there. This is closer than we've been in the past. But to see any launch, to actually feel it, again, you just get that sense of, I'm just this tiny little thing here, and it's taken so much to make this one moment happen. But the cool thing was that despite the fact that the launch was aborted yesterday, we did get to go see some really cool behind-the-scenes stuff afterwards. And there's a program called Plants in Space. You know, if we're going to go on long missions, we're going to have to learn how to create our own food. Astronauts can't go to Mars and live on packaged food. You just can't get enough of it up there. So anyone who's seen The Martian saw Matt Damon growing the potatoes. But we actually are, I guess, working on growing plants in space. Anyone who followed Scott Kelly saw him grow the zinnia flower. And the coolest part of visiting those facilities was not just talking to the scientists who are sending these plants up there and building these mini little biospheres and getting the experiments ready to understand how they're mutating, how they're reacting, let's say, to radiation and microgravity. But they actually, this is incredible, they gave us packets of zinnia seeds that returned from the ISS. So we each have our own little packet, and it's stamped with the date and the name, and I hear it has a certificate inside of authenticity. And yeah, so literally we have seeds from space, and I don't know that any NASA social has ever gotten something that was in space and returned, but that to me is literally the best souvenir I have ever gotten in my entire life. It's going in a frame, it's going on my wall, and if I ever have kids, I'm telling them about it because it's really incredible.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thanks.
And back to you, George.
All right. Thank you, Josh. And we've had some good news from the range. They just report that they are go. And our launch weather officer, Mike McAleenan, reports now that the weather constraint that we had with us, that's now been lifted, so we're go for weather. So go weather, go range, and it means that we're on track for a launch at 9:39 this morning. A lot of work has gone on at pad 39A to reconfigure this pad for a commercial mission for the days of shuttle and even Apollo. And we've got a brief video to look at to talk some about that turnaround activity.
1960s, NASA built a pair of launch complexes suitable for the needs of the world's first moon rocket, the Saturn V and its Apollo spacecraft. Built up more than 40 feet above the surrounding lands, the pyramid base of Launch Complex 39A required months to sculpt by massive earth-moving machines before concrete was poured to hold it in place. Engineers next cut a 571-foot-long, 58-foot-wide flame trench through the middle of the mound to deflect the exhaust of the 7.5 million pounds of thrust from Saturn V rockets lifting off for the moon. The first mission to land astronauts on the moon lifted off from Pad A in July 1969. Apollo 11 kept the promise made by President John F. Kennedy that we would go to the moon by the end of the decade, when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin first set foot on the lunar surface. Those heroes were followed by 5 more missions that would land astronauts on the moon.
We're now at T-minus 22 minutes, 25 seconds and counting. Our SpaceX propulsion engineers report that the loading of the RP-1 and the liquid oxygen both going well. That activity is on schedule and no anomalies in that process so far at all. So at this point, we are go for our 9:39 launch this morning. At T-minus 21 minutes, 57 seconds and counting, this is Falcon Launch Control. This is Falcon Launch Control, T-minus 20 minutes, 21 seconds and counting. You'll notice that Kennedy Space Center looks a bit different than it did for Apollo and even some from the shuttle missions. And that's due largely in part to the commitment of NASA employees to help enable the commercial aerospace industry. And for more on what that looks like in practice, we have our own Stephanie Martin joining us once again. Stephanie?
Thanks, George. We're here at Kennedy Space Center in front of the Vehicle Assembly Building, and it sure is an exciting time to be here at Kennedy. I'm here with Center Director Robert Cabana. Mr. Cabana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, good morning, Stephanie. Let's try this again. I got my shades on here, hoping that I'm going to bring out the sun. We got the rain showers have moved through. I understand weather is go. They resolved all the technical issues last night. SpaceX team did an awesome job. So hopefully we're going to be able to get off here in just about 25 minutes. I can't wait to see.
It should be a great launch. So can you tell us a little bit about the transition that's gone on here at Kennedy Space Center?
Absolutely. You know, like I mentioned yesterday, I mean, this is an exciting time, and the story kind of tells itself. Just looking here, we've got Boeing in the X-37, the Air Force space plane, operating out of OPF Bays 1 and 2, what used to be OPF Bays 1 and 2. Now they're orbital test vehicle processing facilities.
Okay.
And over in what used to be OPF Bay 3 is the C-3PF, Commercial Cargo and Crew Processing Facility with Boeing and the CST-100 Command and Service Module. Of course, inside the VAB, we've got SLS and Orion. We're going to be stacking that up in High Bay 3. All the platforms are in. You can't see the mobile launcher. It's on the other side over there, but we're going to complete that in September, get it inside there for testing. And out at Launch Pad 39B, we're almost complete with all the modifications out there, too. That'll be complete in August. So we're moving ahead, getting all the ground infrastructure in place to support SLS and Orion, and that first step to Mars right off that pad. And, of course, you know, 39A, we've got SpaceX out there getting ready to launch cargo to the International Space Station this morning. Commercial crew, hopefully in the not-too-distant future. They're also going to launch their Falcon 9 Heavy off that pad. You move on a little further, you can see Pad 41 out there and the crew access towers out there for the Atlas V and the Boeing folks. So, you know, it's just really an exciting time. And you can't see it, but over in Exploration Park, there's this huge facility going in that Blue Origin is building to build and process the New Glenn rocket and its crew vehicle. So, you know, if you consider 3 countries, only 3 countries have launched humans to space: the United States, Russia, and China. But right now, in the United States, 4 different commercial companies are creating crew vehicles. Boeing, SpaceX, Lockheed Martin with the Orion, and now Blue Origin. And that's pretty amazing.
It's an exciting time in human spaceflight. So we've got a lot of companies coming here to Kennedy. What attracts them to this area?
Well, location, for one thing. I mean, we're on the Space Coast. It's an awesome spot for launching to orbit, safe because of the ocean, and fairly close to the equator in the United States, so you get the orbital rotation of the Earth, helping you get that orbital velocity. But more importantly, we have the workforce here in Brevard County, the technical workforce, the capability to support those operations, as well as, you know, at the end of the shuttle program, we had a lot of facilities, as you can see, that help support and enable commercial operations here at KSC.
So as part of this multi-user spaceport, we've transitioned facilities. Once these companies are here on site, how do they continue to work with NASA? What's that partnership like?
It's been excellent. You know, we have spaceport integration. What used to be just, you know, center operations, taking care of the facilities and maintenance of everything here at KSC, is now my spaceport integrator. And they help integrate all these companies, do the operations that are necessary, deconflict when required, so that we're successful in our commercial operations. The partnerships that we have with the commercial companies in the state of Florida, you know, well documented, various types of agreements, very effective in enabling commercial ops here at KSC.
Thank you. Now, we've talked a lot about the work that's been done over the last couple of years. What's the next big milestone that you're looking forward to?
Well, for me, I want to see 2 things, all right? And I got a few more agreements I want to get in place, too. But I really want to see commercial crew flying off pads 39A and 41. I want to see a U.S. rocket taking crews to the International Space Station from right here at Kennedy Space Center, not having to rely on our Russian partners. And then I want to see that big SLS rocket roll out of that building you know, all stacked up. Even when it rolls out to the pad on its tests, not for launch, to be able to see the scale and magnitude of that rocket, what we're building, what we're accomplishing, I'm really looking forward to that.
It's going to be an amazing time, and we've got a lot of exciting years ahead of us.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, George. Back to you.
Thank you, Stephanie. And at this point, it looks like liftoff is very promising here for 9:39 this morning. The fueling has gone very well, and our launch weather constraints have been cleared. Range has given us a tentative go. There'll be another check with them at about T-minus 5 minutes. And we'll verify all of our communications links, both with the range and the downrange tracking stations. And final check of the flight termination system will also be going on at that point. And finally, at T-minus 90 seconds, our SpaceX launch director, John Murator, will give the final go for launch. After the liftoff from Complex 39, Dragon will begin its journey to the International Space Station. And 10 minutes after launch, the second stage with Dragon will reach its preliminary orbit. 2 minutes after spacecraft separation, the Dragon will deploy its solar arrays and begin a carefully choreographed series of engine firings to rendezvous with the International Space Station, which is currently planned to occur on Wednesday, February 22nd at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, when the grapple with the International Space Station arm will occur. There's a total of 5,489 pounds of cargo aboard the Dragon. And over the course of the next month, the crew will unload the supplies and reload it with earthbound science experiments that have been aboard the space station, as well as other cargo that's intended to be returned to Earth. We're now at T-minus 13 minutes, 5 seconds, and counting. This is Falcon Launch Control. This is Falcon Launch Control, T-minus 11 minutes, 37 seconds and counting. Looking at the SpaceX Mission Control Center located in Hawthorne, California, just south of Los Angeles. After the liftoff from Complex 39 today, is from that location that the flight will be controlled through the Dragon operation, spacecraft separation. This is the Mission Control Center in Houston, where all of our International Space Station operations are monitored, and our commands going up to the station, as well as our conversations with the astronauts during their on-orbit activities and the experiments they're doing, all occur from Houston, from Space Station Mission Control. Looking now at our viewing site up on Banana Creek on the shore of the Banana River, where our invited guests are waiting with anticipation for the launch today. Many of them having been here yesterday and are fortunate to have been able to come back for our second launch attempt today. We're at T-minus 10 minutes and counting. And for those of us just joining us now on NASA's Facebook Live, briefly recapping, the countdown is on schedule. Liftoff of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket carrying the supplies and experiments to the International Space Station will occur at exactly 9:39 this morning. Weather-wise, there remains a 30% chance of not meeting our launch weather criteria, and our last report from the launch weather officer is that we are go for weather. The terminal countdown started as planned at T-minus 70 minutes with the loading of the RP-1 fuel and the liquid oxygen, which is just wrapping up. The Eastern Range has reported their go for launch, and we'll have a final check with them in about 5 minutes. So at this point, all of our countdown activities remain go for a 9:39 a.m. launch this morning from Launch Complex 39 at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. At T-minus 9 minutes and counting, this is Falcon Launch Control.
MVAC and M1D hydraulic pressure stepping up.
Prop confirmed, ready for engine chill.
Props ready for engine chill.
Stage 1 helium cushion secured. MVAC and M1D chilling in.
This is Falcon Launch Control, T-minus 6 minutes, 33 seconds and counting. The Merlin first stage engines are now being chilled down for their final thermal configuration for the liftoff today when they ignite. And at this point, we are still go for our 9:39 launch this morning. The rocket initially will be tracked by our stations here at the Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral. Just word now that our first aid fueling has been secured. As the vehicle goes up the coast, we'll be tracking it from Bermuda, the Air Force Station in New Hampshire, and then from Newfoundland before our spacecraft separation occurs. And once Dragon separates from the Falcon rocket, Falcon also has communications through NASA's Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System. Launch vehicle reported to be now in self-alignment. Thrust vehicle systems report they are good. Thrust vector system, which was our concern in the last part of the count yesterday, that was simply changed out overnight to have the most propitious change to put us back in a launch configuration this morning. Range conducting their final checks right now. Weather reports there go. Com check complete. Everybody says they are loud and clear, ready for terminal count. T-minus 4 minutes, 35 seconds and counting. This is Falcon Launch Control.
Strong back lower sequence is starting. Cradle open is started.
T-minus 4 minutes.
MVAC TVC motions complete. Securing ground side hydraulics.
GNC, verify stage 2 TVC motion nominal.
GNC confirms TVC motion nominal. Stage 1 pogo bleed verification. Stage 1 lock secured. MVAC fuel bleed complete and igniter purges are complete. Strong back secure for launch, 88.5 degrees.
Standing by for a final go for launch from Launch Director John Murator from SpaceX.
Stage 2 lock secured.
T-minus 2 minutes.
And Falcon 9 is on internal power. M1D fuel bleed is complete.
Flight computer begins final checks.
Falcon 9 is in self-align.
Falcon 9 begins final checks at T-minus 1 minute.
Stage 1 to Stage 2 cryohelium secured for flight.
FTS operator, verify AFTS is ready for launch.
AFTS is ready for launch.
VCDC, verify Falcon 9 and Dragon are in startup.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Dragon is in startup.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 pressing for flight.
LD, verify go for launch.
LD verifies go for launch.
Preparing now to go into terminal count at T-minus 30 seconds.
T-minus 30. T-minus 20.
Falcon 9 is configured for flight.
T-minus 15 seconds.
T-minus 10.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of the Falcon 9 to the space station on the first commercial launch from Kennedy Space Center's historic Pad 39A.
Pad operations on Pad Net A.
Copy, Wilco.
Stage 1 propulsion nominal.
Pad telemetry on nominal.
Vehicle now going transonic through the sound barrier. Maximum dynamic pressure is reached. Main engine cutoff of the Falcon 9 coming at 2 minutes and 19 seconds. Mission control from Hawthorne, California now, controlling the flight.
LC, this is so on countdown.
Stage separation.
And separation of the first and second stage is confirmed.
Stage 1 has entered its flip.
Getting ready for the first stage to re-enter.
Stage 1 boost back burn has started.
And we will be hearing sonic booms here at Cape Canaveral just prior to the landing of the first stage, as the second stage flight continues.
Stage 1 boost back shut down.
Dragon fairing has been jettisoned. We're looking at the burn of the second stage as well as the first stage preparing for its re-entry. Landing fins deployed.
Bermuda acquisition of signal.
Now good data coming in from Bermuda. Second stage continuing to burn well with the Dragon as the first stage continues its re-entry. Data from New Hampshire
Position at New Hampshire.
coming in. There's our confirmation. Confirmation from data from New Hampshire as Bermuda data continues. Second stage data looks good as the first stage reentry continues. 6 minutes into the flight. First stage reentry burn is now about to begin.
Stage 1 entry burn has started.
And about a minute from now, we'll have the landing burn.
And stage 1 entry shut down.
First stage AFTS has saved.
Coming up now on the first stage landing. Second stage continues to burn nominally.
Stage 1 is transonic.
First stage coming back to SpaceX.
Landing burn has started.
SpaceX landing site 1. And there are the twin sonic booms.
Landing legs have deployed. Stage 1 touchdown confirmed. Landing operators moving 11.100 on recovery net.
Stage 1 shut down. Meanwhile, we're only about a minute away from the second stage shut-off with our Dragon capsule.
Second stage AFTS has saved.
Getting ready for spacecraft separation. Spacecraft separation occurs at 10 minutes 23 seconds. We are now 1 minute away from Dragon spacecraft sep. Second stage has shut off. It looks good, setting up for spacecraft separation here in about a half a minute.
Newfoundland acquisition of signal. Dragon deploy.
And Dragon has separated. Spacecraft separation. Dragon now also able to communicate through the tracking and data relay satellite. Oh, 11 minutes into the mission. Congratulations to the launch team from the Air Force Eastern Range for a good flight. Mission control from SpaceX's Hawthorne Mission Control Center, now controlling. Mission control in Houston, also now following Dragon from Houston Space Station mission controls. Now that Dragon has separated, Dragon available to Houston through the tracking and data relay satellite system. This is our SpaceX Launch Control Center at Cape Canaveral, where the flight was controlled today, the launch. And the solar arrays are now deploying right on schedule. That process takes about 2 minutes to complete.
I have LOS at New Hampshire.
Data now coming from Newfoundland. And the arrays appear to have deployed successfully. Falcon 9 first stage now being safe at SpaceX Landing Site 1 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Re-entry and touchdown for the first stage fully successful. We're 15 minutes into the mission. Next major event from the Dragon, which will come through the tracking data relay satellite system, will be the Dragon guidance, navigation, and control bay door opening, which occurs at launch plus 2 hours, 19 minutes. Meanwhile, looking for confirmation that we're power positive through the solar arrays, but the deployment has gone nominally. "17 minutes into the mission. This is Space Station Mission Control Houston. Meanwhile, the Dragon being monitored from the SpaceX
Newfoundland expected loss of signal.
Control Center. We're now 18 minutes into the mission. We've had a very successful launch of the Falcon 9 and a return to the launch site as well for the first stage. Dragon data now being looked at by SpaceX and Hawthorne, as well as Mission Control Houston. And at this point, we will wrap up our launch broadcast and transition into our replays of the launch, and that will lead us to our post-launch news conference, which is scheduled for 11:30 this morning. Post-launch news conference at 11:30 here from the Kennedy Space Center. And we're now at T-minus, or T plus, 19 minutes into the flight.